Hey, it's Damon, and welcome to the Level Up. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the true self. And what we're going to be covering is exactly how to find the authenticity within yourself and be able to shape and mold yourself throughout time so that you can become the ideal version of yourself and do exactly what you want to do in life. So let's get right into it. So, what we're going to be covering is first ego identification and understanding what the ego is. Then, we're going to talk about breaking your limiting beliefs, and then we're going to talk about tools for continuous growth and personal development. So let's get into the ego. So first things first, most people are not conscious of their ego. If you never heard of the ego, it's all good. Most people are not aware of what this is. And the ego is simply the part of the mind that mediates between consciousness and the unconscious and is responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity. So in a nutshell, what the ego is who you think you are, your personal identity, what you identify with, what you think is yours. Anything that you're gonna say is you or mine, that's all the ego. It's a part of your brain, part of your mind that thinks it owns something or thinks it is something. So this is really important to understand that it's just a part of your brain that thinks it is something, not what it actually is. So I want you to ask yourself the following, just to clarify this. Who are you and what are you? I'll take a second real quick. All right, so if you're like me, you probably answer the questions that aligned with your ego. You're probably like, who are you? My name is Damon, and what are you? I'm a business owner. I'm running this brand, right? I'm going to be identifying with who I think I am and what I think I'm doing. Now, these things are technically true, but I want you to just get into the realization that, this is a figment of our imagination to some capacity. So I want you to understand that the ego really creates stories to identify with reality. This is how you're able to operate throughout life. And the cool part is once you understand that this is all in your mind, everything that you're doing is your choice. You have the ability to choose the stories that you're writing. You have the ability to take action in a way that you want to take action. And this is the true essence of being a human being and really being authentic in your own journey. So now let's talk about breaking limiting beliefs. So first things first, limiting beliefs are assumptions or perceptions that the ego creates. So, once you identify with something in life, you think it's yours, you think that's all you're going to have, or whatever the case may be. This is simply not true. And this is because the ego starts to really wrap and mold itself around what it thinks it is. And this can work for you or against you. In most cases, at some point in time, you're going to be creating limiting beliefs. So this is going to be your beliefs creating your perception of reality. And a really great way to show this is this statement right here. The difference between I can't do this because and I can do this because is actually the same exact thing in your mind. Understand again that the ego is creating these stories and it thinks it's this one thing. So if you're saying I can't do this, that could easily be I can do this, but you're just not choosing to do so because it doesn't align with your ego. So once you understand these principles and you see that you really do have these choices in your mind, you're able to break free and do as you please in life. So really understand that all beliefs become limiting until the mind begins to accept more. So this brings us into now the reticular activating system in our mind. So again, I am not a psychiatrist, but this is the information that I've used, information that I know, and it's been presented to me and helps me understand and break down exactly how the brain works. So the reticular activating system, or the RAS, is a network of neural pathways that mediates perceptive behavior and is responsible for your levels of consciousness. In a nutshell, this neural pathway is responsible for you believing something and also, committing to things. This is exactly what drives you to do anything in life. So, how I've learned to break this down and how I view it is in terms of reality programming. So, this is pretty much the basis of how we learn to do anything, how we learn to believe anything, and how we can be so, one way about certain activities. So, really, it comes down to this pattern right here where a thought becomes an emotion, and then that emotion becomes a belief. And then we have our reticular activating system, which goes ahead and looks for confirmations of our thoughts, our emotions, and our beliefs. And then that eventually turns into convictions, where it's an unwavering feeling of pride and, just being on your move. So, let's break this down real quick. So, a thought is simply a figment of your imagination. It's a collection of stories that your brain has downloaded for survival purposes. So you probably already know this, but you have millions and millions and millions of thoughts on a day-to-day basis. Some of them you believe, some of them you don't. Thoughts are just there in our mind, and it's there for our brain to take note if it needs something to survive. Now, sometimes when these thoughts, start to pick up some sort of charge on them, they feel a little bit, more real. That's because they have now an emotion attached to them. So this is a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances or an importance of an event. So for example, if you end up thinking about maybe you had a bad breakup back in the past, and then you hear a song that you and your significant other were listening to at one point in time, you're gonna be thinking of, the song. You're gonna start to feel those emotions. That's because you've tied this song or this thought with an emotion of feeling, and it just starts to get this charge and it starts to feel important to you. Remember, this is all in the mind. This is not actually real, but you can start to feel the impetus in within the actual song, within that actual thought. So this is how the mind works, and you can start to develop a long line of these different types of thoughts and emotions that start to really build up on each other. And once you have a thought and emotion that really starts to tag team itself, you start to begin to believe in these thoughts and these emotions, right? So a belief is simply an acceptance that a statement is true. This is when you can begin to rationalize what's going through your mind. Now, beliefs are pretty much what it sounds like. So you just start to believe what you think, and again, this is because there's enough emotional charge to these different thoughts. Now, this is when the mind starts to do some unconscious things that we aren't very much aware of at all. But this is where the magic starts to happen in your mind, and again, this is where things can work for you and against you, because we have the reticular activating system going to work for us. So the RAS begins to look for proof of what we think, how we feel about it, and what we believe about certain events. So you can imagine exactly what this feels like. Say you are always on, you're working out and you're trying to get bigger, you're trying to lift more weights, whatever the case may be. You're gonna keep confirming to yourself, hey, I want to step up my weights. I want to step up my weights. This is you looking for confirmation, you looking for proof that you can go ahead and get bigger, lift weights, do whatever you need to do. If you're running a business or whatever the case may be, maybe you're tasked with some new you're reaching some sort of resistance within your business. Maybe you're stuck at a certain revenue number. You're still going to try to find ways to look for reason and proof that you can overcome these obstacles. Again, this can also work against you if you're on the pessimistic side of things and you're not feeling good about yourself, you're not feeling confident. um, you can also start to confirm those types of thoughts and those types of beliefs. So really what the RAS is that part of the brain that really makes something real and makes something not real in your reality, right? Remember this. So once the RAS begins to look for proof of whatever that belief was, it's then start to confirm. And this is the action of confirming something or the state of being confirmed. This is action based. So this is when it gets to the point of, okay, you've already rationalized what you've been believing. You found a little bit of proof of like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. So now you're gonna start taking action towards whatever your belief was. So in this case, so this would be actually lifting more weights. This would be actually overcoming the obstacles in your life and your business. And once you start doing more and more action, it becomes a conviction. It's a firmly held belief and an unwavering thought. This is pretty much when your routines, your habits just become unconscious because you've done it so much, you've taken so much action, and now your mind is just accepted it. So this is how the mind works. This is how you can begin to program yourself. Again, this can work for you or against you. You just need to be very conscious of your thoughts, how you feel about these thoughts, and what you believe, because those three pieces right there will dictate how your mind subconsciously starts to look for proof of these things that you're thinking about, so that way you can go ahead and move forward in life and survive. So now let's talk about continuous growth. So the way that I look at life and the way that I've, showed other people in my life is to operate in, on a day-to-day basis is to look at your life as yourself versus just in yourself all the time. So pretty much looking at life from a third person perspective and being able to control yourself a lot more. Almost like you're a puppet, almost like you're in this, almost like you're a puppet to some capacity where, you're choosing the characteristics of yourself. You're fully aware of the story and what's going on, and you're capable of shifting yourself. You're capable to do what you please. You're capable of writing your story and choosing how you want to move throughout life. And this can be a very, very powerful concept in your mind, because now all of a sudden you're not playing victim to anything and you're choosing to be accountable for what happens in life, and you're being responsible and being able to move how you need to move in order to keep growing and doing what you need to do, whatever your goal is. So, in order to really go ahead and dive deeper into this whole mindset, this whole piece of knowledge to go ahead and grow yourself, is going through something what I call the goal set book, and this is something that I use every single day. This is where you create your dream identity. This is where you can choose exactly who you want to be, acknowledge what your goals are, and really coordinate and align with who you'd want to be, and then finally keeping track of all your actions, just so you're holding yourself accountable. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what this goal set book looks like. Right, so the goal set book again is pretty simple. It's just a quick PDF, quick slideshow. You're gonna be able to print this out. What I recommend you do is you go ahead and write out and type out, your manifesto and all the information in here first, and then you can go ahead and print this out and then keep it on you at all times. The way this works is you're going to be, filling it out, and then you want to print it out, read it every morning as soon as you wake up, and every night before you go to sleep. You want to be honest with yourself, transparent with yourself. This is the key to growth. And ideally, you're going through this every 3 months just to keep yourself accountable, keep yourself on track. Trust me, it really does help out in the long run. So first things first, we're just going to look at the manifesto. So this is really this is the encompassment of who you want to become, the true authentic self. So in order to get this started, what you want to do is just ask yourself three questions. Who are you destined to become? Where do you want to be in life? And how have you achieved greatness so far? And once you can ask those questions to yourself and really be honest, what you can then do is go ahead and write this story out and really start to resonate with it. Really start to picture yourself where you're at in 5 to 10 years. Really start to picture at what you're doing for a career. Who are you around? What's your family look like? What is that true dream that you see for yourself? But understand that you can actually achieve it, right? So this is what you'll do first, is just write out your manifesto, write out your story, and then we'll go ahead and finish up the rest of the slides.